mkombozi wetu. Tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote, tuimbe pamoja, kuenzi shikamano hatima yetu. Tujitoe wenyewe kupambana pamoja, uhuru na umoja vitawale. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote na tujibidishe kutoa kilicho bora kwa Afrika. Chimbuko la wanadamu, chemchemi ya utamaduni, tumaini letu wakati wa mafarakano. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima.
Let us make Africa the tree of life. And of course, Africa is the tree of life. My name is Katam Mukasa. I'm Ugandan, interested in issues, human rights issues, environment concerns, and of course, food security and food safety issues. Join us at Human TV Africa. We are a charity NGO registered to do this very work. That is our handle at Human TV Africa. And of course, our Facebook name is Human TV Africa. But also, send us an email. Our spokesperson will be able to respond to you. That is info@humanstvafrica.com. And the WhatsApp number is right there. We have studios in Uganda, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, UK, and the US. And we are opening up more studios in other countries. We thank our viewers for supporting this initiative. Right here, we are here to discuss food security concerns. This is episode 4. If you have missed any of our episodes, please go back into the archives and watch these episodes. Remember, we have the best experts in Africa to discuss this issue. Of course, Mr. Kimera Henry, was one of my facilitators several years ago when I was on a scholarship from the Germans to study leadership. And of course, leadership goes hand in hand with training people to defend their rights. So Mr. Kimera right there was a facilitator in that program. He has been doing that work for quite a number of years. That's why we have him here. He's the food security expert, a human rights expert that I know I can vouch for in Africa. And of course, alongside him is a comrade Vended Bambale, who is also a Ugandan food expert, human rights defender, nutrition expert. He will tell us more about himself. Of course, he told us about himself the other time. And please go back if you watched or missed our shows. Please go back and see those shows are very important. Now, today, we're talking about food safety concerns, Street Vended Foods, episode 4. This is very, very, very important item we are discussing, especially because I am can I say a foodie? I'm an eater of street foods. So I always confess here, I have very poor eating habits. I go on the streets, I buy foods on the streets. I'm really typical African. I don't tell lies. I tell you, I buy food on the streets. When I was at the university, I used to eat food strictly on the streets. So let us talk about food security. But of course, street vended foods in Africa. In the world, not so much. But in Africa, I tell you, I've been to many African countries. These foods are there on the streets. I'm here. I'm a consumer of food sold on the streets. Now, let us hear the experts telling us about these challenges, safety concerns, and of course the consequences of eating these foods. I will start with Mr. Henry Kimera to give us a recap for the last show, but also usher us into this new episode. Mr. Kimera, most welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. We are greatly honored, as with all my colleagues. I would say many hats I wear, but as I wear those hats, I'm greatly honored to always share the experience that comes in with more than 28 years of engaging in consumer advocacy. And today, I am honored, and we would like to thank the Humanist Africa TV for bringing us together. Kato, with all your team, as a Luganda saying is, Gava Mukulia, it all comes from consuming. That's why you are vibrant with all the studios and everywhere. And all colleagues listening to us, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, but keep awake and listen to us. I know those that are in the US, they are just waking up, and the others are picking up or others are still sleeping, and they are picking up their foods or their snacks from the street as they go home. Those that are going to have a late hitting of the bed. Those in Eastern global world, they are awake or they are going into late in the night and so forth. So, colleagues, episode 3, and I would like to say thank you for viewing. I'm told it was explosive. And it was good that we talked more food governance and the food environment. And we were talking about the leaderships in our respective countries, talking about food being a political weapon, being a political game, but food shouldn't be treated like a commodity. It should be treated as a means for humanity. Food is what makes us live, like the environment in which it is produced. So we shouldn't play around with food. We should respect it and all the facets that are enabling us have that food. It is very key to look at food from a systematic approach rather than looking at it only on the plate. I always say have the pleasure on the plate, but safety in the mind. What brings the processed food goes through before it gets onto the plate. That is called a system, brings it. But that system is enabled by policies, legal frameworks, institutional and regulatory institutional frameworks. And all these are enabled by governance. The quality of governance provides you the quality of food. If you are a father in the home and you do not respect food, if you are a mother in the home and you don't respect food, the kind of food your children will have or your family will have will also be of poor quality. But once you respect it, then that manifests in the kind of children you have at home and in the kind of parent you are. And this also goes to the leadership of the nations. If the leadership of a nation cares about its citizens, it will make sure that investments in having quality food are adequately made. As food is medicine, make sure that the communities, the citizens do not get stunted, they are not malnourished, as we appreciate. Bernard shared with us, nutrition is very key. Being nutritionally poor, nutritional poverty is something that is impeding growth of a nation. food poverty is an issue that is affecting the growth and sustainable growth of a nation. So, colleagues, today, like we appreciated last episode, consumers play a very important role. They are big drivers with regards to food. Markets are there because of consumers. And once the consumers, we know our role, we can turn around many things. As consumers, we are the biggest socioeconomic grouping that sustains businesses, that sustains economies. If we vote with our wallets, businesses can collapse, businesses will not pay taxes, and governments too can collapse. So we are an important segment, and we need to speak out when we are served wrongly. Every aspect of humanity is operating because of us. Climate change is there because whoever is abusing the environment says, I am producing for the market. So we, the consumers they are producing for, we also need to be cognizant that the vagaries affecting us due to climate change are done in the name of us. So it is important that we start talking about responsible production. As today we are going to talk about responsible street foods. So we would like to see to it as we talk about street foods, they are given to us in a responsible manner. So I would like to end up my recap with a quote that I like, and it is used elsewhere, which says consumers are a powerful force for change towards more sustainable and equitable food systems. Their behavior make a difference. So our behavior can turn around quite a lot. And today we would like to talk about the environment from which Kato picks up his food on a daily basis. And I would like to say that we all pick a snack, we pick a bite from the street. Unfortunately, there are a number of local governments or even governments that want to crush street foods, but which is wrong. These foods are affordable, they are accessible, and they are available. Majority of the global population, some of us, we live below average, and we can't afford a $10, $20, a 30 to 50. Other people have a meal of $1,000. But with us, we want a meal of less than $3 or $2. Paul might be going in for a $5 sandwich, but or pounds. But the issue is, how should that food be presented to us? We eat it so that we are living. So the street foods, in whatever form, this is what we would like to discuss today. And colleagues, I would like in your respective countries to make sure that we call to action to have the street food in a presentable manner, rather than the businesses that are providing us the street food to be chased off. And they go, once they go underground, then we are going to get far worse poor quality food. So we need to make sure that we call to action our respective duty bearers to take care of the street food in the manner that is making the urban, peri-urban. There is even trading center urban, because many places are getting urbanized. When you go to Ruengo, you'll find that a few villages off Mbirizi, towards whatever direction you take, the trading centers are urbanized. People, even those that have got farms or gardens, in case they don't get a meal from the garden, they will come to the trading center to grab a street food. So this is how what we are discussing today is very important. It's not only for the urban consumers or even peri-urban, it is also for the rural consumers, given the vagaries of climate change, given the vagaries of land grabbing, given the vagaries of changing season and food fraud, input fraud, and poor quality service delivery. People end up eating street foods. Thank you very much. I think that is enough as a curtain riser to bring an appetizer like one of the bites Paul will receive after or go and grab after the show. But that bite, Paul, should be got from a clean personnel, a clean place. We are going to see photos of where we access food. Should be nutritious and should be medicinal in that it keeps you strong so that you host us for many other episodes. Thank you very much.
Let me first laugh at myself, but I have to thank you so much for. I'm laughing at myself because I'm a big time street food buyer. But before I bring in Bernard, let me give you this experience. You talked about my hometown in Dirizi. We come from the same area, that side. Now, when I was growing up, my mother had a big a big clinic in Mbirizi town. There was 87, 88, 89, 90. And I was in Mbirizi town. We had a big clinic. We had our house there. We were settled there. Now, because I was ambitious, I wanted to buy a radio cassette for myself in 90. Because I'm the sixth born in my family and I was the youngest boy. I'm a twin, but I was the smallest and the youngest. Now, my bigger sibling bullied me when it came to using the home radio cassette. And I couldn't tolerate it. So I said, okay, I'm going to work and buy my own. Because they could slap me, they could kick me because of breakdance. That time there was Michael Jackson and that kind of thing. Now, what I did is that I went to the neighbor, Mama Stella. I'm talking about in this town, which you know, quite big now. I went there and told her, please, I want a job. I want a job. And which job was to vend pancakes. So I became a street vendor for pancakes. I would leave school at 6, go home, eat my food, and then be on the road from about 6:20, 6:30, sell pancakes up to about 8 p.m. And my mother could open, why are you selling pancakes? Everything is here at home. I told her I'm making my own money because there's something I'm targeting. So I worked for about 3 months, working in the evening, then still in the holiday, and I made money and I bought my first radio. It was in 1990. But out of vending street food for a neighbor, Mama Stella, and that was pancakes. Now, I have an experience not only eating it, but also selling it. I should give you another example. Whenever I'm traveling to Mbarara or to Rengo, up country, I always make sure that I have a stop at Namaojolo, or I have a stop at Nkokonde, whatever, those stopping points where you go and stop and buy muchomo. When I'm going to Masaka, it's I think Rukaya, I have to stop there, buy this muchomo and eat. When I'm going to Gulu, I've gone to Gulu several times to do work. I've gone to Lila several times to do work. I always buy cassava. I have their cassava on the streets. I don't know whether you guys have ever eaten it. I love cassava. The way those people in Gulu, in the north, make their cassava, the one they sell on the streets, is so good. I don't know how I can't even tell how they prepare it. I should tell you, I'm a supporter of street foods. I have a very nasty experience I will not share right now, but I should say, yes, I've been selling street food when I was a kid to get money to buy a radio. I sold street food for about 5 months, but also I'm a big time buyer of street foods. Now, the question is to Bernard, tell me, what's wrong with me eating my muchomo on the streets? On the streets. What's wrong with me buying a piece of chicken, buying cassava, buying maize? Because I've been buying it. Tell me, and educate most of us. When I was in Kenya, Kenya has a very unique system. They sell maize in bits, not the full. That is called a cob, not the full one,
Yes.
but they cut it in small pieces, roasted ones. And I think they call it bob, 10 bob, 5 bob, 20 bob, like that. And I was a
Yes.
good buyer of that maize in Kenya. So in brief, I buy chapatis, I buy chicken, I buy chips, almost everything from the streets. So tell me, am I in danger? What's wrong with the street foods, Mr. Bernard?
All right. So, well, thank you so much, Mukasa, for really giving us some bit of your experience, and Henry for taking us through uh, the previous discussions we've had. One is that I have to be honest that street food, it wouldn't be bad. It wouldn't be very bad for you to actually even think about leaving it. But I also want to share with you where this originates from. If I want to give you some bit of scenarios for us to learn, when you're traveling from Kasese, where I come from, and you're coming to Kampala,
Mm.
you realize that people will travel all the way from Kasese to Mubende, and there's no one vomiting.
Yeah.
Now, the distance between Mubende and Kampala, when you're in a bus, now you start realizing that actually people start vomiting. I don't know
Yeah.
whether you've had this experiences.
I've had that experience.
Okay, so similarly, when you live in Kampala, you move from Kampala to Mubende and there's no one vomiting. Now, when you start from Mubende going to Kasese, now you see hundreds of people, children, women, vomiting. Now, you would ask yourself, what has happened in between there? So, one of the risk
Mm.
factors is the consumption of food at that spot in Mubende. Of course, I'm giving Mubende as an example. That's where
Yeah.
in Uganda, the people who are traveling
Mm.
from Kasese eat from. Similarly, when you're going to other places where you find a lot of food, people start vomiting thereafter, meaning that there has been probably food poisoning happening after consumption of that street food. Now, the truth is that street food cannot be avoided because each one of us, each one of us grabs something from the street. But the question is, what are the provisions for you to have a street food vending site?
Mm.
In the Public Health Act, it is very illegal for somebody to have, actually, it is illegal to have street food. But then we've come up with guidelines for establishment of street food. And one of the guidelines is that the authority of a particular district or a country is supposed to establish a place where street food vendors can actually prepare food. Now, the question will be, how many of our governments have designated such places where people can actually sell food? That should be now a question of governance,
Mm.
because it is mandated that a country government should establish those places where street food vendors can actually prepare food, which food then should be safe for the consumer to eat. But in principle, if you come to Uganda, street food is sold anywhere, which is actually now the illegal bit of it. How does it become a problem? There is a lot of what we call cross contamination in those
Mm.
places where food is being sold. For example, now I'm taking you back to Mukasa where you eat from,
Mm.
where you're eating from now. Let us go to a stall. Each and every stall is supposed to have two people. That is the code of practice. There should be two
Okay.
people at every stall. Now, what do these two people do? One of the vendors, one of the guys there should be now handling food in terms of preparing the food. He's the guy making chapati. He's the one, then the other guy is handling.
Yeah, we are having a technical glitch there, but we are having a look at the photos.
So that should be the principle. The other one is handling.
Yes, we are looking at the photos showing street vending food, street vended food right there on the screen. As Bernard is catching up with us, network sometimes is an issue. Connectivity. Remember, this is a live show. We are live on air, and right now in the studios we are seeing photos of street vended food. Bernard says there must be two people at each stall to ensure safety of these foods being sold. But the question is, do these people abide by the rules? Look at them. We always buy these tomatoes right from these dirty environments. Look at the tomatoes. Look at how they are flying our food right there. I think this environment is completely dirty. I agree with Bernard. The environment is dirty. It's not safe for our food. Look at those tomatoes. If you boil those tomatoes and you eat them right away, are they safe? Look at the garbage right there in the environment where these tomatoes are being sold. And look at the kitchen right there on your left hand side. Look at that photo of that food being sold there. Is that food safe? Is the question we are asking ourselves. Let's give us more of these photos. Look what this guy is preparing chapatis and bread on your left. If you are looking on your screen, he's sleeping literally on what is being produced. Now, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. This is illegal, and this is not good for our safety. Look at this market in Mbale, and look at the garbage, which is littered alongside the actual it's a drainage in my view. You can see there's garbage there, there's a trench there, and then we are supposed to eat this food cooked right near this trench full of rubbish, full of lots of dangerous hazards from the toilets. Now, this food cannot be safe, honestly, and the toilets themselves are not safe at all. Now, this is an example of dirty food or contamination, as Bernard has been saying. Bernard, we are back on air, and we can proceed with you. Bernard, back to you. Bernard, if you can hear me, back to you. Or Mr. Kimera can come in. Yeah, Mr. Kimera can come in. Dennis, take us back to the photos. And I will continue explaining the photos as my colleagues get back connectivity. Dennis, if you can give us the photos on Food Street, and more of this, we have been able to explain these photos. You can see how unhygienic these foods are in much of the places we go to eat food from in Africa. It's not really clean. You can see the drainage system there, the toilets down there, and then all these are contaminating our foods. Of course, the experts are going to tell us which diseases do we get by eating these contaminated foods. Of course, Bella talked about vomiting. I was a victim of vomiting, I should tell you. At one point, I ate grasshoppers. I ate grasshoppers in one of the buses. I want to mention the buses to keep their dignity. But I ate food from a bus. This bus was going to Mbara, and I was going to Mbara at that time. And it stopped somewhere. And this guy came with grasshoppers, and I love eating grasshoppers, and I ate them. But hardly had I eaten them, in about 30 minutes, I was having stomach pains, and I vomited for the first time in a bath. Of course, I had a handkerchief and all that stuff, and I had a very nice experience having stomach upset in a bath. Remember, there are no toilets, there are no facilities, so you have to continue holding on your stomach. It was really terrible. I vowed not to eat at least not to eat grasshoppers on the bus. The rest I can still try. The gonja I can still try. Let's go back to you, Bernard. tell us about more of these food concerns, sector
All right.
concerns.
Sorry, we jumped off a little bit. So one person is supposed to be handling money because money is a
Mm,
food container. Just imagine if you got your money from your pocket, you gave it to the guy who's selling you a chapati, he touches the money and then he goes back to touch your food. So there is a lot of cross contamination that happens, and so that's why we
mm,
say if persons are vending food, there should be two of them, so that each one member touches the money and then serves the other guys, and then the other person is actually handling the real business of making a food. So that is one principle that we are never doing. The second principle, if you look at the vendors, we have promoted diversity of food on the street. That please, instead of having only Rolex or maybe mandazi or bread or chapati, we are encouraging women to also put other foods. If one of the food, rice, potato, meat, it means that you can provide diversity of food on the menu, but on the street. Now the challenge is when you prepare such food, then it shouldn't be placed in an open space because vehicles are passing, and if these dishes are not closed, the risk of having dust on that food and microbes on that food, the risk is too high. It means that if the food is just really hanging in space, the microorganisms are actually tapping on the food, and at the end of the day, the consumer ends up having this food, and then it makes them sick. If you look at how our vendors prepare food, look at the towels they use. You would realize that the towel has taken a month or so when it has never been cleaned. The towel they are using to clean the knife is the same they are using to clean the frying pan, is the same they are using to, clean the food, is the same they are using. So the table, I mean, someone has one towel, but the towel is cleaning the table, the knife, the frying pan, the hands, the cups, etc. So it becomes a little bit challenging if you start having that. And if you look at that photo, it is even very disastrous. If you look at that towel and that frying pan, and then the guys were making fun that actually the dirtier the towel, the tastier the Rolex. I mean, if we still have this kind of mindset, the towel has taken 1 year or I don't know how many months and has never been cleaned, you're very sure that, okay, that towel is cleaning now the frying pan, it cleaned the table, it cleaned the hands, it cleaned the plate. So at the end of the day, our consumers are at risk of getting sick of foodborne illnesses just because they are eating food which would be nutritious but unsafe. You see, this is where the thing is now. If you look at that photo which has just come, just a minute there, this is the presentation of unsafe food when it goes to us inside there. And that's why I was trying to share it that way. If you look at the microscopic view of a chapati or these other foods, when you put it on a microscope and is tested, this is how it presents. So a consumer is taking in a chapati, but inside you take it along with this kind of stuff. So these are molds, others are microorganisms that cause disease. So at the end of the day, our consumers fall sick because the food has been contaminated. If you look at how the consumers also suffer locally, consumers have to be very serious. When I go to buy street food, even when all food may not be very safe, but the level of contamination can differ. Look at the person who is selling you the food. You see a guy, the hands are very dirty. The guy is from touching the charcoal bag, and it's already touching the food. And you're also seeing as a consumer, it means you're not really serious. Huh? Look at the person presenting you the food and the nature of the space that you're buying this food. If the space is not safe, then don't buy that food. Move to the neighbor who has relatively a better version of the food that you want to eat. The other issue is about when you look at our vendors, what is the packaging material that they are using to package this food? It is something of interest. But consumers are not interested. The other time I told you about polythene bags. When you look at the polythene bags, I told you about the science and the chemistry of polythene bags. This is just so many other things put together, but they are very unstable to heat. Now you see a consumer going to buy maybe milk or tea, and they say, "Oh no, put me in a container." Now the tea has been boiling at 100 degrees, and you put it on a Cavera, and then the things start immediately oozing out, and so a consumer is taking milk tea, which is nutrient dense, plus the things. And then, unfortunately, Before then they put for you the hot thing, they first blow air inside. You see the guy really making, getting on his tongue and takes off some bit of sample of saliva, opening the conveyor, and then blows air inside. And then they pack for you milk, and you are seeing as a consumer. You know, that is disaster. The question would be, why would the consumer accept such kind of food? Consumer accepts to buy something may not be right, they cause disease to themselves, spend a lot of money. I've always asked you guys, why would you spend 2,000 to buy a cup of milk and you go to the hospital and spend 500,000 to treat a disease? Prevention is always better than cure. When you see that this street food is not safe for you, circumstances around, please leave it alone and don't buy it. Now, going back to governance, every street food vendor is to be known, registered, and licensed. Now, the question is, are our governors knowing these vendors? Do they even know where the conditions under which they work? You'll find vendors here, they're selling food next to a petrol station. There is a petrol station there. This is a fuel pump, and this is the site for vending. Now, assuming that in the middle of Kampala, near a petrol station, if just a spark of fire left the sigiri, the cooking stove, and by mistake or accidentally hits the fuel, because you are near the fuel pump, Kampala can burn in a second, and all of us are no more. So the question is, why aren't our leaders designating these appropriate places? And actually, we are now advocating for, if we can have food points which are designated and the government constructs them and all vendors are selling in such spaces, then I think we can provide safer food for our people. Look at where our vendors are. Do they have water? Do they have clean water? And if the water is not there, how do we expect them to be washing plates, cleaning utensils that they are using? If you look at our current situation, the vended food would be very good because we can access it. But what are our vendors using in terms of ingredients? We have seen in Kenya, of course, these news were from Kenya, but also in Uganda, in Banda, a few months ago, we realized that there is petroleum in food. Started seeing transformer oil in food, either in chips or something, or cassava. So you find that transformer oil is made for metals or transformers to be it's like a lubricant. But you see, transformer oil and cooking oil look alike. When you look at the two, they look alike. The difference is in the properties. Now, transformer oil cannot boil very fast. You need a lot of heat to boil it. While cooking oil can boil easily, about 100 and something degrees, it's already boiling. Now, why people are doing is that when they get transformer oil and they mix it with cooking oil, so the boiling point increases. So it means you can use this cooking oil a very long time and it's not getting burnt. So you see someone cooking with the same oil for a month or two, and then they are causing problems to consumers. So you're consuming your chips, which would be nutritious, but then you're taking it with transformer oil. And at the end of the day, people die of unnecessary diseases. When I was working in the health sector, I kept on asking colleagues because many of you consumers started complaining that the doctors are telling you you have an infection, and you keep on wondering which infection it was. Now, let me ask you now, Paul and and if you consumed the transformer oil and got sick, what do you want the doctor to tell you that you are suffering from which disease? Certainly, we shall tell you that you see you have you have an infection because we don't have a disease of transformer oil. We don't have it, but you've consumed it. So, ideally, the nature of preparation of food at the streets is a little bit worrying. Now, you find that street food vendors, someone uses cooking oil for a month or so, and you wonder, now the consumer comes why should you go and see cooking oil that the guy is using to prepare chips? The cooking oil is now black. You see the color has even turned to black, and you proceed to buy. Why do you want to spend your 1,000 to buy chips and whatever you're buying, and then you go and spend 1,000,000 shillings in the hospital? This is where disastrous diseases come from, and people are suffering, people are sick, cancers are all over, and we are not understanding what it is. Now, the other issue would be how they make with food for us. Now, let me first complain about about chapati. Now, chapati is made from wheat flour. But chapati is prepared for less. The question is this chapati really ready for consumption? If I got this same flour and I make porridge out of it, because I know that people make porridge out of wheat flour. So if someone made porridge from wheat flour, how long does that porridge take to get cooked? Certainly, it will take about maybe 15 minutes or so. Now, the chapati takes a minute, even less than a minute, the guy is already serving you the food. But where was it prepared from? You see the guy is tired, but he just sleeps over, just like in the previous photo. Someone just sleeps over because the environment in which this food is being prepared is really unconducive to make our people safe. So many people are suffering from foodborne diseases just because of the safety issues of the food that we are handling, the food we are giving our consumers. Whereas during preparation, we have agreed that everyone who's preparing street food must have a head sock on. Why? Because hair can fly off your head and it goes into the food. That's why you're able to see they sell you a chapati and you find hair. So you start imagining, is this hair from the head or from elsewhere? These are realities that we need to think about. So we need people to cover their head and then to prepare food when they have hygienic conditions. The question is, how do I keep hygiene when I'm on a street and the dust is all over and I don't have where to keep? So you find people getting food ready and they keep it open for a whole day. The food is open, and that's why you will see people coming with muchomo on the bus, but the muchomo was prepared last evening, and this is where the problem is. So you keep seeing that food is even being mixed. You find that where they're preparing goat's meat, the chicken is there, even pork is there, even fish is there. Now, if someone is allergic, someone does not eat pork, but on the same stall there is pork, there is beef, there is goat, there is chicken. There's a lot of mixture of things. People start getting what we call allergens. So because you've eaten so many other things and you're not sure of what exactly you have eaten. So as consumers, whereas we cannot avoid street food, let us be cognizant of where am I picking the street food? Which kind of food am I picking? Where is it prepared? Did I see the nature of the person who was preparing it? And so it makes you aware of what kind of food I should buy. For you guys who buy milk on the street, I have warned you severally and I'll keep warning you. The law says milk is not supposed to be carried in a jerry can. Why? Because when you see milk is nutritious, not only for human beings, but also nutritious for microorganisms like bacteria. Now, you pour milk in a jerry can. If you look at that photo, for example, this jerry can, you can never put a hand inside to clean it. Therefore, it shouldn't carry food. It can carry water because, but food, milk, which is so nutritious, you cannot clean it. So what happens is that when people put milk in jerry cans, they just rinse, they just shake the jerry can and then pour away. But milk is inside, so you keep refueling, you keep putting more milk. So it is not allowed for people to carry milk in jerry cans, and that's why we are encouraging people to use the cans, because those cans can be cleanable. Someone can put a hand and soap, and then you are able to clean it. But a jerry can, you cannot. So when you see someone selling milk in a jerry can, then don't buy it. Don't buy it because you never know. Yesterday, the other day, the whole week, that jerry can has never been washed. So this is what we tell our consumers. And I told you last time that when a vendor of milk picks up to pack for, be cognizant. Where is he picking this Cavera from? If he's picking it from a dirty jacket, reject it, because this is your money. You're buying a cup of 2,000, but you're going to treat yourself at 1 million. If the guy blows air in a where he's packing for you food, reject it, because your 2,000 can lead you to India. You're going to treat maybe bone tuberculosis or whatever, because someone has given you or tuberculosis in that kind of air which they are breathing into the Cavera to wipe. So there are quite a number of things that us as consumers we need to be cognizant of. When I go to buy my chapati, it is okay because there the guy has names using a dirty towel. The place where he's been making it is dirty. There is already oil which is showing you that oil is black, and we know that there is no cooking oil which is black. Reject it. reject this kind of food and go and buy a better option. For you guys who just wake up in the morning, you want to buy your Rolex, it is okay. But be cognizant of the environment you're buying this food, the personnel, how smart are they, how clean are they. They may not be 100% clean, but you see some bit of signs of dirty hands, long nails, the hair is all over, etc. You need to be cognizant and be aware of what you need to do. But also maybe from my side, as I finish up, we need to be looking at how the pans they are using, okay, the utensils that someone is using. You see someone asks for commando, here in Uganda we call it commando, a mixture of chapati and beef. And then the guy pulls out a plate and the plate has water, You see a plate is having water. And then they serve you on such a plate. Please reject such food. Because the plate alone is carrying water, which is dirty, probably dirty water, and then for you are just eating. So you end up having typhoid. This is where the things come from. So we need to be careful, be cognizant when you're going for street food, fine, but ensure that you have those dynamics. And of course, government has to regulate these guys. Let us regulate our people who are making us food on the streets, hygienically and otherwise. All of these vendors must be knowing their healthy status. If we don't have their healthy status, we are also we stand the risk of causing disease to other people. So, colleagues, this is basically a simple bit of sharing about street food. Street food is okay if at all it is well managed, hygienically sound, and I think we can be able to promote it. But those are the things, the basics that we need to work on. Yeah.
Wow, wow, that was that was very educational. That was very. I should tell you, me, I'm a student. I always say I'm a student of life. I keep on learning each day from everyone. But I should tell you that I learned from this show, and I'm happy that so far from our Facebook page, not YouTube page, but from our official Facebook page, over 3,000 people watched our last show, which means that the message is going wide and far. And I'm happy that we are able to give these people this message. Maybe one or two people will become conscious, because what is killing us in Africa is complacency. And of course, ignorance. I don't want to say stupidity, but I say ignorance and complacency, because even me who went to school, I'm a bit stupid when it comes to street food. I buy food when I know basically it's wrong to buy it. And do you know what I do before I invite Mr. Kimera? What I've been doing, because I know these guys are dirty, and I want to eat hot chapati. So when I go to buy from the food store, I say, give it to me hot. It must be right from the frying pan. This is what I take. And
That's a better deal.
sometimes, sorry?
That is a better
Sometimes
deal for
I'm
you.
trying to, yes, it's a safety measure for me because I want to buy it hot. When I've been driving and I'm going to Mbarara, I park my car, I go on the site where they are cooking this food or chicken or muchomo, and I say, can you please put it back on a fire? I try to do that kind of safety. I'm not so smart, but I should say I try
That's
to
a
be a
better
bit
deal.
cautious.
That's better.
Because I knew that the effects I've been getting out of eating it cold may be the danger. Ma, Mr. Kimera, you are the expert here. You have had all our challenges. Me, I'm a consumer. You are the expert. Question number one. Why is it that in my country, Uganda, and I observed it in Kenya, I was in Ethiopia, I ate street food in Ethiopia, I've eaten street food in Rwanda, in Burundi, in Kenya. This is those countries I've gone. In Tanzania, I've been there. And I'm good at eating street food, I should say. Now, I've never seen, those countries I've gone to, where there are two people, one holding money, another one giving me food. I've never seen that. Yet I hear it's the law, which is very true, the law. But where is the government? Where is the local government? Where are the LCs to implement this? Number two, people are sick. We have our diseases. We have our HIV, whatever it is. And I don't know whether these market vendors are checked to ensure that their blood is clean, or if they are sick, there are measures to avoid them passing on this disease. Because you cannot say, if you have HIV, don't pass on this, don't do business. Of course, that's a human right to do business. If I'm having HIV, for example, I should be able to do business. But are there measures to go and check these guys? Now, number three, of course, which I'm seeing that's a very big problem. The sanity is the cleanliness along the in the environment where people work. It's too dirty. And in Uganda, I just think our government cares so much. Now, the consumer activists, what are you doing to handle these problems? What can be done to stop these bottlenecks? Because most of us are really victims. Back to you, Mr. Kimera.
Thank you very much, Paul, and I would like to thank Bernard. It is quite a teaching marathon that we are having now. In 1 hour, we're having a half a marathon. So the questions you have asked are pertinent, and all these hinge. The three of them, the way you've asked them, hinge on the duty bearers. Why? I tell colleagues when I do advocacy that as a country, we have got enough policy, legal, and regulatory framework to keep us safe as of now, irrespective of some being called obsolete. And this is when they call them obsolete that we need new laws. I tell them, have we implemented what we call obsolete? It is when I ask, if you have failed to implement an obsolete law, will you be in position to implement a modern one? Do you have the experience of implementing laws? So that is the first scenario in most of my advocacy I do. In meetings I'm in, asking now, where is the local government? The local government is at the center of street foods because the guidelines and the standards and regulations talk of if you are going to vend food on the street, you must be gazetted. It must be done in a gazetted area. That is one. Number two, the place must be inspected. You, the vendor, must get a license to operate in that place. Number three, you must go in for health tests because you are doing a public service. You must be healthy. You must operate from a healthy environment. All these are set in tools, in regulations, in codes. Now, the unfortunate bit is that most of these people are levied taxes are levied from them.
Yeah.
They pay. Others go and say, we paid to get tested, but we have never been tested, or we were tested and we are not given our results. The sanitation, all the taxes that are being taken off the vendors, are part of it is to clean. And some of the vendors, when you talk to them, why are you operating in a dirty environment? They say, we paid, and that is what needs to come in and collect the garbage. So this is where I would say that we are the majority as consumers. We need to speak up to drive better business, to speak up, to drive and have all the regulations and a number of aspects implemented. That is something very key. And this is what we do on a daily basis, that when we get the spaces, we speak up. And like you are saying, that the Humanist TV, many people are watching it, and we trust in the 3,000, they are duty bearers. There are many spaces that are cordoned off in cities, in municipalities, in towns, where people who put their products on pedestrian walks would be taken and infrastructure is put there for them to operate in such places so that they are not condemned. Accessibility, let's say, of these food centers, once they are put there, should be made a priority. So the questions you are asking me are that the duty bearers should take decisions that facilitate, that enable all the street foods to be in good condition. But I would say that all is done and the duty bearers take the blame also, only. But as the consumers, as we have a right to save food, we also have a responsibility of keeping the food safe. How do we keep the food safe? By demanding that the places from which the food is dispensed to us, the facilities, the infrastructures, it is us who vote in the people who do us disservice. Why don't we tell the councillors, the technocrats, that we voted for you, but where our food comes in from is not of good quality. It is not hygienic. The sanitation is very poor. We need to speak out. We work in Nimbale, and some of these things we speak out to the authorities there. There is a good food council. There is a good food parliament. In one of the parliaments, we say now we need to go and eat from these places as you, the leaders, so that you get to see where the food is coming from, that your voters are accessing food from. But some of the politicians don't want to go there, but they will go there when they are looking for votes. So this is the time the consumers, being the largest socioeconomic group, we need to speak out. Some of the movements that are making change do not start, or they start small, but let's use this campaign here for us, the consumers, the 3,000 that were watching. If we go back in our respective countries, I'll give you an example. Wherever I go to have a drink, I'm known to ask for a beer or a drink that isn't white. Why? Because I've ever gone in to have a drink, the bottle was white, and as I was putting it on my mouth, I was smelling detergent on it. Because the cloth that was cleaning the table was the same cloth that cleaned the bottle. So from that day, I took a decision. When I asked for my drink, I asked for a serviette so that I clean it myself. And with the places I go to, they know me for that. I stopped using glasses because I went, it was a respectable place, and they gave me a glass. I put in my drink. In less than 2 hours, I had a cough, which I used a lot of money to treat. You see, some of the sanitation, some of the consumer action can make a change. And like the decision you took, the senene wasn't hot. It's bad my clan gave you a bad tummy. If it had killed you, we wouldn't be having this show. But I liked where you said that I always go in for hot street foods. In fact, to the consumers, if it is hot, it's preferably good to go in for hot food. I am a consumer activist. I eat street food when I travel, even here in Uganda. But when I travel, I also go to food courts. But the food courts globally are well organized. Their local governments are responsible because they feel for the people. They have to deliver service. This is what now we wish to have in our countries. Can our local governments, the duty bearers, put affordable infrastructure of quality to enable the majority of the citizens access safe, quality, nutritious food as street vended foods or street foods. Street foods are not a crime. But do you know the biggest crime? It is the duty bearer not minding to put infrastructure for consumers to access food. That is the biggest crime. Not allocating enough money to put services, infrastructure for the low-income citizens to be in position to access food. A food that is decent, a food that is safe, the food that is not a danger to that consumer. To me, that is the most important thing. And to me, that is the crime. The only other thing that we need to do for citizens, as I conclude, when you look at the food environment, is to facilitate them to provide and earn a living in a decent way, not to point fingers to them that they are endangering our health. That is the most important thing.
Thank you, sir. That has been a very educative show. We are past our 1 hour. We are going to borrow more 10 minutes, and then it will bear with us to be able to conclude with, of course, the takeaway home from today's show, and of course, promising our viewers that we shall be back on Saturday to have this and more. Now, I'm so worried that for the first time, I've learned that people get cooking oil from transformers. This is the first time I've heard of this. And thanks to you people for taking me through this kind of show, because for the first time, to be honest, I've heard that people go and get oil from transformers and use it to cook. This is so bad. It's happening in Kenya. It's happening in Uganda. And I've been buying all these cooked foods in Kenya and Uganda. Now, this is really so terrible. I'm afraid we are getting these cancers from these foods. How do you use transformer oil? Transformer oil, for goodness' sake, cannot be fit for human consumption, because the metals there, the whatever there, is not good for our tummies, honestly. Now, this is, to me, big but bad news. Now, number two, as I conclude, and of course, I want to invite Dan to give us his concluding short remark for today. I have to say, I'm in agreement with Mr. Kimera and, of course, Mr. Bernard for saying that it starts with us. We, the consumers, it starts with us. I mean, who cares about you? The other guy wants to get the money. We are in a capitalistic world. They want to survive. They want to get the money. It's up to you to be conscious, honestly. I would take that as a fair warning to all of us. Be conscious. It's your life, not theirs. They're out there to make money. You are out there to eat, but also save your life. Now, Mr. Bernard, you are concluding a short for today.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chimera, for giving us another. Now, of course, one thing that I'm realizing is that from my wide experience of food safety, I think we also need to start now teaching the duty bearers. It's like in this country, even the duty bearers don't know. We have the policies, we have the ordinances, whatever it is, but it seems that they also don't know the thing. So I think as part of our work, we need to reach out to the duty bearers and give them the basics, what their role is and what they're supposed to do, and take them through their own policies that they developed and they don't know them. I think that would be one thing. The other thing would be that, for me, I believe in consumer empowerment. And every single day, I will tell consumers to reject food. Imagine if we went for a meal somewhere at the street and 4 of us refused to buy. I think the person who is preparing this food will tell himself there's a problem. But of course, whenever I talk to consumers, I encourage them to reject anything that is not safe for them and immediately tell the person selling it why you are not taking up their product. And me, I do it every single day. So every time I go, let me give you maybe the last scenario that I just shared with Henry. I went a few days ago. I was traveling from home, and then I passed by somewhere to buy street food. Of course, I went where they were roasting, and then I wanted to have a roast. And then the girl who was serving me had a key in the finger, these small keys, and so she had put it in her finger. Now every time she was cutting my food, the key was touching my food, and I just learned that the size of the key indicated to me that actually it was even a toilet key. Probably she was having a latrine key on her finger, and so I of course as a concerned consumer, I told her, Madam, I'm not taking your food because your key is touching my food and your key is seemingly a latrine key, so I cannot be able to take your food. Sorry about it. So I moved on. She had even started cutting it, and I moved on to another person who gave me the food. So do consumers have this ability to refuse what is not good for them and move on to another? So that is why we need to empower our consumers to understand their rights, but also their responsibilities, and then we are able to move on. There are consumers, for example, who know I don't take milk, and then they go to a street and they buy chapati, which they have put milk, or they go and buy biscuits, and the information is even provided on the biscuit cover. They have put there, okay, ingredients, milk, they have written them there. But the consumer proceeds to consume the biscuit. And then shortly they start having a running stomach, and then they start complaining, I had a food poisoning and whatever. And yet they did not understand the ingredients in the food. It would be very healthy that whenever I'm going to buy food on the street, I am cognizant of and asking what are the ingredients in this, so that I don't start having allergies for consuming something that I know I don't consume, but I've eaten it indirectly in another food. So this is the consumer empowerment we're talking about. Is the consumer empowered to even tell what they're supposed to eat, reject what is not right for them, and move on with life? I mean, life is too short for us to complicate it with food. Food should be medicine, and that medicine should be providing us, the nutrients and. But then we are eating these days food, and it kills us. Why should medicine kill you? So you and I should be really very serious with what we eat, what we put in. We must be advocates for safety of the food and safety of the consumer, but the consumer must be cognizant of what they are going to eat. It is the same that I've always told Chimera Henry here, that you see, it is not about only the food. For example, Kato, I know you no longer move on a motorcycle, but assuming that you move on a motorcycle, and then you realize that this motorcycle is having no light. There are no lights on the motorcycle, and there's no light. It's 7 p.m. Why would you sit on such a motorcycle? You pay your 5,000 and they knock you in a second because there's no light, there's no. The same to food. Know what you're supposed to eat, how you're supposed to eat it, and reject whatever is not fit for you. Thank you so much, colleagues, for this opportunity to let me share with the team. And I think we shall keep sharing as time goes on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We shall see you next Saturday, Mr. Bwambali. Now, there's a message from Kamurunji Charles. I've just seen it in the comment section. He's worried about. He thanks all of you guys for the wonderful show, and he says he's worried about the guys making our chapatis with the dirty towels. Of course, I know Denisia loves chapatis, but I've been warning him. You bachelor man, you are going to be in trouble by buying those chapatis cooked with that towels. Okay, Mr. Kimera, you have 2 minutes for you to giving us your parting shot.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I wouldn't like to do a lot of repeating, but I would like to say that as consumers, we have got rights and we have got responsibilities. But our responsibility to safe foods, safe products, requires our responsibility to be critically aware. Be a smart consumer, even if you go for street foods. Empower your vendor who provides you food by telling the vendor, improve here, improve there. You might not say that today. I always tell, it reminds me of an old story. Somebody who was going to the well and was pierced by a thorn along the path down to the well and said, no, it will not pierce me alone, and will put it back so that it pierces another. Goes to the well, comes back, forgetting where he or she put the thorn. And as had the pot or the container of water on the head, and it was heavy, steps on the very thorn where he or she forgot where it is, and pierced him or her harder this time, even penetrating into the foot, and throws the container of the water onto the ground. And I know, Paul, you must know this. Akafumita bagenda.
Yes, I do.
So consumers, let us advise the people who provide us the food. If we, and like another saying, a smith person was located themselves on the road to be advised. So the street vendors are on the street to provide us a service, but we should advise them as they provide us a service, because we give them money and we shouldn't keep quiet. And let's do the same to the duty bearers. I would like to say next weekend, we would like, because I know some of the listeners, we never know where the world takes us. We might end up being street food vendors. We'll be leading the whole session, the steps of street vending.
Yes.
Street food vending. We will touch the requirements, and we start ticking as you watch. Is the food vendor next door following this? Is this, so that you write those requirements and you go and campaign at your local government, and you call to action your local government officers. These are the advocacy campaigns now. We give you the requirements and you go and require them. You tell the politicians, you tell the technocrats in your local establishment, can you get the service providers to provide this? And you, the local government of duty bearer, implement this at our local environment food. Thank you very much, and looking forward to being with you at the next Saturday episode. The other aspect, as we wind up, we would love to have aflatoxins next month, which is one of the major food safety aspects with regards to our foods, not only in maize, in groundnuts, it is there in milk, it is there in eggs, meat, if animals feed on contaminated feed. But also in human beings, it affects us in groundnuts, in sorghum, and so forth. So we'll be talking to Mr. Kato, and I'm sorry, not Mr. Kato, we'll be talking to Kato that how to go about the aflatoxin program next weekend. Cheers, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I am Kato because I'm a twin. If you don't know, twins are gods in our culture. So misters are mortal. For us, we are immortal. That's a joke, but of course, Mr. Kimera is there right now. Thank you so much, all of you guys, for watching. Thank you so much, especially guys on Facebook, because our majority of viewers are on Facebook. So far, over 3,000 guys, viewers have seen these shows on Facebook. We want to encourage you to please also visit our YouTube channel, because there you want also to visit it and also watch from there. So far, they are watching from our Facebook handle. This is a great thing. So thank you so much for educating us. In fact, I'm learning. I was saying I'm a student for life. I keep on learning stuff like you have taught me, you guys, about food safety concerns, which I'm picking. And to me, this is very important. If you continue doing this advocacy, trust me, even the so-called educated guys be taught, because I'm here learning. I'm having all this education. I'm having 3 degrees, but I didn't know this kind of stuff. So what was the use of my education? It's useless, because basically, it's useless because basically, if I'm going to die out of my stupidity, so what did my 2 degrees in law help me? Plus a diploma from medicine. It's useless because food is the most important thing. So all of us can be able to learn and relearn. To me, this is a very important program that all of us need, whether you're a medical doctor, whether you're an engineer, we need this kind of information. Please tune in and also share it with your colleagues. remember to write to us. The email is right there. And of course, I want to thank so much Mr. Kimera and Mr. Bwambale for taking the time to make it here at Man TV Africa. And let us meet you again next Saturday. See you when you see us. Stay well.
Tuungane sote na tushereke pamoja ushindi kwa ukombozi wetu. Tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu. Enyi bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote, tuimbe pamoja, kuenzi shikamano hatima yetu. Tujitoe wenyewe kupambana pamoja, uhuru na umoja vitawale. Enyi bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote na tujibidishe kutoa kilicho bora kwa Afrika. Chimbuko la wanadamu, chemchemi ya utamaduni, tumaini letu wakati wa